Order. July 14th, Wednesday. Roll call, please.
Chair Hedges,
Here.
Vice Chair Azevedo,
Here.
Commission members Askey,
Here.
Jafarian,
Yes.
and Member Delap is absent.
Thank you. We will now please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Phil, can you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Phil. I guess you have to do the oath of office now. Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, that's why. Oath of office, he just got reelected.
Oh, we didn't.
All right, so we'll sign it after we're done. Here you are, sir.
Thank you.
Lift your right hand and repeat after me.
Yes.
I state your name.
I, Philip Jafarian,
Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend
do solemnly swear that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
The Con-
and the Constitution of the State of California
the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California.
that I take this obligation freely
I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties on which I'm about to enter.
Welcome back. All right. And you'll need to sign. I made an extra copy if you want to take one with you. Not really? Right there.
Give you that.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We now would normally have the election of chair and vice chair, but since we're missing a member, we've decided we're postponing it till next time, so we're going to skip that. So we'll go on to the appeal notice.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the Planning Commission, this appeal notice is in the event that you, for the public, in the event that you disagree with the action taken by the Planning Commission in regards to your application or with any condition for approval of the application which is not a specific requirement of the Norco Municipal Code, you are entitled to appeal such determination or conditions to the Norco City Council, provided that such appeal is filed with the Norco City Clerk within 10 calendar days after the requirements for appeals, inclusive of payment of an appeal fee. Thank you.
Thank you, Alma. We will now go to public comments. I'll open the public hearing. This is the time to come up and speak on anything that is not on the agenda. Do we have any cards?
I do. Bonnie Slager.
Okay.
Transitions of websites, and with the city's new website with the agenda, I noticed that each place there's a staff report PDF file. When I click on that, it sends me to something called iCompass that requires a login, and of course I don't have a login, so I can't see the information. I did discover that I was able to open and download an agenda packet, but it just seemed odd to me that in having this agenda and having these links, it goes to some place that you're required to have a login to get there. So, as I say, I just love seamless transitions to new websites. Thanks.
Thank you. Lacey?
That's it.
No one else? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. We'll go back to site plan 2A.
Thank you, Chair. This is a application for site plan 2107, a request for approval of an accessory building to allow a 600 square foot detached three-car garage at 5308 Roundup Road located within A120 agricultural low density zone. This particular item is going to be requested to be continued. There's still some stuff we're working out with the applicant, so we're going to push it off till August. So that's a recommendation.
Thank you. All right. Do you need us to vote on that?
I'll make a motion that we go ahead and continue this item to the August 11th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting.
Second.
I have a motion from member Jafarian and a second from member Askey, correct? That wasn't you, Denny. Chair Hedges,
Yes.
Vice Chair Azevedo,
Yes.
Commission members Askey
Yes.
and Jafarian.
Yes.
Item continued.
Thank you. We'll now go to 2B, site plan 2021-01.
Thank you, Chair, again. This is a site plan 2101, Mr. Zarlinga. It's a request for approval of an accessory building with a 768 square foot detached garage at 2231 Stallion Drive, located with the A1 agricultural zone. The accessory building is requesting to approve a 768 square foot detached garage within the rear yard of the property. The garage has been analyzed in accordance for the criteria of accessory structures. Throughout the whole thing, it meets all criteria. The project site is a rectangular shaped parcel consisting of a little over 21,000 square feet, having frontage on the east side of Stallion Drive. Let's see, the property is developed with a 2,593 square foot single story home with an attached 778 square foot garage. So this would be a secondary garage on the property, detached. Let's see. As far as going through each of the sections of the code regarding the development standards, each section: land use, maximum height, maximum allowed size, washroom wall articulations, interior walls, exterior design, animal keeping area, septic and sewer, everything meets code. So there's no red flags. There's nothing of concern on staff. The Architectural Review Board has reviewed the proposed project and they have no comments. It is exempt from CEQA. So in summary, along with the review of the standard requirements, the Planning Commission will have to determine if the design of the building is acceptable as determined by the ARC, if the proposed building will impact the animal keeping potential of the lot, and if the building will impact the view of the adjoining properties. There is a resolution attached for Commission's review, and staff is ready for any questions. And I think the applicant may be here. Not sure.
Thank you. Questions of staff? Phil?
Yeah, and I'm just a little confused, because what you're saying here is that there's no restroom, but when I look at the plans, it shows water and sewer stub-ups.
You know what page you're on? Forgive me. Forgive me.
There's a bathroom. Does say it. Down there.
If you go to page A2, note 2.
What note? Forgive me.
Okay, so on page 2, if you look at the floor plan, you'll see a 2 in a square that's sitting on the south wall of the pop-out. Now, if you go over to the plan notes legend and you look at note 2, it says plan notes. It just refers to plan notes, and so it says.
Gotcha.
Do we know what that is? Why that's there? If there's no
I'll be
restroom.
completely honest. Sorry.
Yes, it's the well, intended for a restroom facility, but it's not shown on the floor plan. However, it's something that can be added, no more than 50 square feet, at the discretion of the
That's legal to have
for
it.
the applicant. So, however, you see it?
Yeah, it's right here.
Yeah. The intent is for a restroom, future restroom.
Questions of staff? No. Danny?
No, it's pretty cut and dry.
Is the applicant here?
I call him.
No, it's all right. Then I can ask you the question, because it's a very odd-looking garage. Is it supposed to be a garage or a workshop or a garage workshop? Because, I mean, it just shows one area where you park in and the rest is big in the...
Open.
Yeah.
According to the applicant,
Future ADU.
ADU, sorry. Go ahead.
Future ADU.
Yeah, it's got a garage door, so it's intended, it was analyzed under the description of all other accessory buildings, we can include a small garage, a workshop. So the intent is to use it as a garage and possibly some storage.
I just didn't know whether,
Yeah.
I was going to ask the applicant if they were here, but, okay, all right, thank you.
But-
Okay, do we have any cards on this? You want me to open the public hearing?
I have no cards, and I have no emails.
Okay, well then, we won't open the public hearing, we'll come back to us, and anybody want to make any kind of motion or discussion?
I'll move for approval of site plan 2021-01.
I'll second it.
I have a motion from Member Askey and a second from Vice Chair Azevedo. Chair Hedges?
Yes.
Vice Chair Azevedo?
Yes.
Commission members Askey?
Yes.
Jafarian?
Yes.
Motion passed.
I'll go to 2C, site plan 2019-06.
That would be you. Oh, is it site plan? Okay, cool. Alrighty.
Oh, we can hardly hear you.
Yeah, I'll speak louder. I apologize. Let's see. Palomera. Madam Chair, members of the Planning Commission, this is agenda item 2C, which is site plan 2019-06. And this is a request for approval for an accessory building use permit to allow a 1,152 square foot large vehicle parking building at 810 5th Street, and this is located within the A1 zone. The accessory building being proposed is, as I indicated, it's for a large vehicle parking building, 1,000 square feet, plus an additional 152 square feet for additional accessory use. But one thing that I need to point out is that it's one contiguous building, same height, same wall height, etc. The building was analyzed according to the criteria for a large vehicle parking building under the Accessory Building Use Permit section of the code. One thing I need to point out also is that the building, is already there. It was constructed without permits, and the construction of this building was under the previous property owner. And I'm sure what was passed out to you earlier is a letter in opposition, and basically goes a little bit into the history of the previous owner. So the new owner was made aware of the outstanding code violation and has pretty much done everything necessary to move forward and try to get it approved. So here we are. So the property is a rectangular shaped parcel consisting of approximately 23,522 square feet. It's developed with a single family a home that's approximately 980 square feet with the 980 square feet, and it's surrounded by A1 zoning pretty much on all sides. As I indicated, this is for a request for approval for an accessory building of 1,000 square feet and 152 square for other use area. The building as it exists now consists of a total size of 1,152, has a wall height of approximately, a wall height of 8 feet, a 3 12 pitch roof, and a maximum building height at approximately just over 11 feet. Roof overhangs. The building consists of roof overhangs, a garage door in the front north elevation, and the applicant is proposing to add horizontal siding to the front to match the existing single-family home located at the front of the property. And decorative stucco pop-outs are proposed on the south, east, and west elevation to resemble windows, and they're intended for articulation to break up the appearance of a large building wall. So, and the colors of the building are proposed, the building is proposed to be painted to complement the existing house. As noted on your site plan, the building exists at the rear of the property. It's approximately 70 feet behind the existing home. This building has been analyzed according to large vehicle parking. As far as the land use, it is a land use that's allowed in the A1 zone. For large vehicle parking building, the maximum height at the roof eave, 16 feet, 18 feet to the peak in this building is substantially shorter than that. And in addition to that 1,000 square feet at 18-foot height, the code allows an additional 400, up to 400 square feet off to the side for any other use at a building height no more than 14, wall height no more than 18. This building in its entirety pretty much is is under the height limitations when you look at it as a whole. So whether you analyze it under the large vehicle parking building for the tall height of 18 feet, it meets that, it's under that, and then for the additional area, it meets that as well. The maximum allowed size is, as I indicated, 1,000 square feet for large vehicle parking and an additional 400 square feet. The building entirely as proposed, 1,152. The maximum lot coverage is not exceeded. The building meets all of the graduated setback requirements. Let's see, in this case, there is not a washroom being proposed. As far as articulation, any side that exceeds 20 feet has to include doors or windows for articulation. So basically, as I indicated, as designed to break up a large mass. And as I indicated, the applicant is proposing to add pop-outs on all sides to resemble windows to help break up the appearance of a large wall or extensive wall. The building was presented to the Architecture Review Board. One of the comments came back that it should match something, should include something to match the existing house. And what has been proposed, as I indicated, is siding at the front. That's more probably, potentially visible from the street to match the siding on the existing house. The open animal keeping area is provided on the east side of the proposed building. The location where the building is located, it's pretty flat. It's flat. So, it would have to pretty much be consistent with the existing drainage pattern of the property. The animal keeping area is provided, as I indicated, and the Planning Commission will have to determine whether it'll impact the view of adjacent neighbors. And we did provide an aerial that shows in relationship to the surrounding properties, a view in relationship to the surrounding properties. We did notify property owners within a 300-foot radius as required for the accessory building ordinance, and we did get a letter that was provided in opposition. With that, I will conclude. The applicant is in the audience. Along with the standard requirements, the Planning Commission will have to determine if the design of the building is acceptable with the proposed changes. And as presented in your staff report, if the proposed building will impact the animal keeping potential of the lot, and if the building will impact the view of adjacent neighbors. Some of the concerns that are in the letter could potentially be addressed through conditions of approval as the project is conditioned now, or as the commission sees fit. So with that, I will conclude and answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Alma. Questions of staff? Danny?
No, nothing particular about the building. I don't see anything with it. On that part of it, anything to do with the city, under discussion, I'll talk about it later, but nothing to review. No, I don't see anything.
Thank you. Mark, questions of staff?
Alma, are any of the specific items mentioned in the letter code violations?
Just the building.
Just the building itself, basically, right?
And there was, just to kind of give you a little bit, there was a few more items under the old property owner, but pretty much this is the only thing that's outstanding.
Okay.
Phil?
Didn't we review this one under a conditional use permit once time before?
No, it was a site plan, but it went, the ARC reviewed it, and it went as far as being not advertised, but notified and on the dock, but we had to continue it because there was another outstanding code violation, but it wasn't actually reviewed, discussed. It wasn't discussed, but it came as a
So
site
there was,
plan as
there
well.
was no conditions of approval on the building
No,
when the previous, or
correct.
the owner that had
Yeah.
it?
It didn't, again, it was notified, advertised, but it was continued because there was outstanding issues, but
Okay.
it was never formally discussed by the PC.
Thank you.
I have no questions of staff, but let's open the public hearing, and can the applicant come forward, please? Hi, just pull the mic towards you, please. Pull the mic down so we can hear you. There you go, thank you.
Good afternoon.
It's on?
Yeah, it's on, it's on.
Yeah, so,
Do you,
no,
what-
we just bought the property as it is, and we spoke to, I think, was Ms. Robles, and she said that everything was, before it was, they just need a permit, something, so we were not aware of all this process.
okay. Do we have any questions for the applicant? Bill? Okay, thank you very much. Do you have any cards, Lacey?
I do. Kathleen K.
Okay, good. Hello.
So you got my letter, and I'm the one who wrote it after.
Please talk into the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that better? Okay.
Thank you.
I'm Kathleen Kay, and this is my third house that I've lived in. I lived in two houses with my parents before I bought this one in 1990. The person who installed the building, I believe he came in 1997. I was looking at the cell history. He was a difficult neighbor, as I stated. The building was installed June 25th of 2018, and as you can hear, it's oversized by 152 feet. Without existing windows, I fear it's going to be used as a garage now, but without existing windows, how do you get proper circulation? I'm worried about it being bigger than the house and what it could be used for in the future. The man died. They sold it one time. We talked to that owner regarding some of our issues I've stated here, and I'm going to highlight some concerns. And then this is the third owner, and we haven't had a chance to talk with them regarding what we would like to see happen in order for this building to be approved. So there was a 45-foot retaining wall that was built from the horse trail back to my redwood fence that I've been talking about in the letter, because it got material thrown against it rather than being preserved with, just setting on top of the ground. He ruined it. The 45-foot retaining wall was not permitted. I don't know if that's legal or not. Then we removed a property fence from the end of that retaining wall all the way to the back of the property, and he basically took over 13 inches back to 9 inches of property, and the understanding was he was going to build a brick wall and had collected a lot of brick, and then he went and died and the brick was sold. So all of that, and my property is not accessible to me. I put up a fence for the previous owner when I bought it in Nevada. She didn't want to go in on it, and the fence that was taken down, it wasn't very good. It wasn't going to hold a dog back, wasn't going to hold a horse back, and that's why we built a fence inside of it. But I wasn't willing to give up my property. Anyways, I'd like that addressed. He brought in trailer after trailer after trailer after trailer. I'm not kidding. Well over 50 flatbed trailers. He had a 24-foot flatbed of DG. I'd like that soil checked because I don't know where it came from. I don't know if it's contaminated or not. I would bet that there's anywhere between 9 inches of difference across the whole property, and it raised above, so now there is downflow. We haven't had a bad rain since he put the building in, but there is drainage into my arena. That's okay, but I'm afraid of the drainage into the pool. So I'd like to see all that corrected.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Anyone else, Lacey?
I do not.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to us. Discussion, Phil?
There, I'll turn it on instead. I understand the Mrs. K's concerns, but I think we're only supposed to be evaluating the site plan. Those other elements which may be of a concern, and I have a neighbor who's also brought in a whole bunch of DG and all those kinds of things. But that's really from a neighbor to a neighbor. That's not really part of our purview. When I look at the site plan, it looks acceptable. It's a rectangular area for the animal keeping. It's of an appropriate size. It appears to have ample access so that we don't drive. We're not entering into it across. I mean, even if they put a driveway in there, the horse could walk up a driveway as you drive a car or vehicle into the building. The fact that it's well below the 18 feet, I mean, that's so rare for us to get one that's below the 18 feet. I'm not as concerned about that. I think those are my primary thoughts, and I'm looking forward to hearing what the rest of you have to say.
Mark?
My only concern that was expressed here is the lack of windows. Don't we normally have a requirement if we're going to approve a new building that there be windows? Or is this low enough that with a
No, there is, it's hard, the way it was written in the code is for articulation. So it can be real windows or it can be fake windows. It can. Now the real windows or ventilation is a requirement for like animal keeping structures where you have to have some kind of, but for something of this nature, it could be fake.
So people keeping, we use as a garage or a workshop, we don't require them, but animal keeping we do?
Correct.
Well, because the animal's alive and
Yeah.
the car isn't.
For security wise.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have no requirements, so we can't impose one. Okay.
Danny? Discussion.
Well, I hope you'll have a better rapport with your new neighbors, and maybe you can work some of your issues out. Hopefully that would be helpful for you. And maybe they can get together on the fence and get all that. But it's true, the slopes by looking at the picture, I wish my neighbors looked like that myself. Norco is a hotsposh of a lot of good and bad. There's no doubt in this town, and I've lived here all my life. But maybe, like I said, hopefully you'll get along and something will happen. But looking just by the picture, I tried to look at it. I live right around the corner, not very far from you, and I've been by there quite a few times, but it's hard to see. Yeah, I could see it, but I ride my horse a lot through there. But it looks nice and clean. I'd have to invite you over so you can take a look at my neighbor's place. But anyway, that's all I can say. I think like you said, it's low. The ceiling's low. That's unusual that we don't have that. It is a garage. A lot of times for security, I can see why you don't have windows on that portion of it. If it was a horse barn or a horse, yes, definitely ventilation. So I don't see anything really that's catching my eye that I would say I would turn it down. I think it looks fine.
I agree. Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make. No, I did it right. I make a motion to approve site plan 2109-06.
Second.
I have a motion. Excuse me. I have a motion from Member Jafarian and a second from Member Askey. Chair Hedges?
Yes.
Vice Chair Azevedo?
Yes.
Commission Members Askey?
Yes.
Jafarian?
Yes.
Motion passed.
To item 2D. Is this yours, Alma?
Yes, that's mine.
You get to work.
Madam Chair, members of the Planning Commission, this is a discussion item that was something that has come up in light of the recently passed ordinance, the ADU ordinance, which is the accessory building ordinance, which allows a second unit, a maximum size detached living unit maximum size of 1,200 square feet on pretty much any residential property in the city. So one of the things that we wanted to discuss, and this was something that the council wanted us to take a look at as well, is with the passage of the ADU ordinance, in our municipal code, we still have provision for a temporary mobile home for the elderly and caretaker dwellings, yes. So with that said, and I go into a little more detail, but pretty much that's the, in summary, the benefit of allowing a caretaker, temporary caretaker or temporary dwelling unit for the elderly is because, you know, the applicant still has the option of going the temporary route, and they don't have to pay impact fees, which are required with accessory dwelling units. One of the things that I did point out in here that the property is not reassessed under a temporary situation, and believe it or not, I did get a call back from the assessors, and I have to correct that. It is a temporary, even for a temporary, if it's longer than, you know, just maybe a period of maybe a couple months, if it's longer, like years, then they are basically reassessed. So that's interesting fact that I'm surprised. I got a call back, but I had to make that correction. So, but that's, you know, having that provision for a temporary mobile home for the elderly, as it sits, you know, requires approval of a conditional use permit by the Planning Commission, and so does a caretaker dwelling. And in the sense of a caretaker dwelling, there has to be a need justifying it. And in the sense of a temporary mobile home for the elderly, there's other requirements, like, for example, it's age restricted. You have to have a minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet. And there's others. The downside of leaving that provision in here, and I think this might be where John might want to chime in, is that property could potentially have 3. So therein lies the issue that the commission will want to take a look at that. A solution to the situation could be to amend the code that if so that the caretaker dwelling and temporary mobile homes for the elderly can still be considered, provided there's not already an ADU on the property. And I don't know and that's something that, you know, John will want to chime in on. Anyhow, the discussion is here before you, so any direction that you can provide to me as far as any potential code amendment would be greatly appreciated. And with that, I will conclude. Yes.
Danny?
Yeah, all these that you're talking about, is there any charges for sewer using it because you're additional, and even trash at all? Do you do it for caretakers right now, for any of that? Do you have any charges? Really? No charges at all?
Yeah, they're metered.
So we're paying as citizens, and then you bring in 3 more living spaces, and they don't pay any kind of charges of using the sewer, using the trash?
When it's a temporary mobile home for the elderly, even a caretaker, it's metered with the existing home. If it's an ADU, it's a separate. If it's a detached structure, it's
then I'll say the ADU. Something should be charged when you got 3 units. I'm afraid, I think that could even change when it's caretaker. I mean, you're adding on every one of our citizens here, and they keep seeing the price of that go up all the time. Then you got someone's going to have 3 units on it using the sewer, and then, I don't think it's fair to the rest of the citizens.
An ADU would be required. A detached ADU would be required to be metered separately. ADU, not a temporary mobile home.
Right. Well, I still think the others are good too. I hate to say it, but
They are being charged, but just...
Yeah, that's what I was just asking. I didn't hear you say that.
Oh, they are being charged, but it's through the primary dwelling.
Oh.
With an ADU, I apologize.
Oh, okay.
With an ADU,
that's what I was asking.
Yeah, with an ADU, it's a separate meter.
And how do they adjust that cost? I mean, is it a percentage, a little bit more, but we were paying every month?
Yeah, it's the same.
A base.
Oh gosh, I don't know, Danny.
Okay.
Yeah. I apologize. I misunderstood your question,
No.
though. So hopefully that clears up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, on that part. No, I don't, me personally, I don't think all 3 should be on property at one time. No, I mean, I hate to say it, I'm a long timer here, and you're just building the land down. It's going to be going, you're going to have more horses, animals. All we're going to look like is the future Orange County. Sorry, but no, totally against having 3 of them. No.
Mark?
I don't necessarily have a problem with them because we still have maximum coverage restrictions and things like that, right, on the property, even though, so, I mean, regardless of how many things you add, there are still provisions in place to ensure that the property is, there's enough available space. My suggestion, I can see situations where if somebody has an ADU, they still might need a temporary mobile home for the elderly. I wouldn't lump that in with a caretaker unit. I think certainly if they're going to have a caretaker dwelling and they've got an ADU, I can see where those two might be mutually exclusive, but I think the temporary mobile home for the elderly is a separate issue, and even if you have an ADU, I don't see a reason why you can't, if that temporary need arises and you have the space available on your property to meet the other requirements, I would not be in favor of trying to restrict that just because you have an ADU.
Phil?
It's a good question to ask because you know, if you have an outbuilding or a mobile home for the elderly, care of the elderly, it has a time limit and it has verification on it, right? The one thing I think that becomes a challenge is when we have, I had the same concern regarding the sewer, just in terms of capacity within the city, or water supply, or power. I mean, we've got limitations because of just the nature of how it was. There's a couple. So I'm wondering if there isn't a way to say a temporary mobile home is only available as an option if you do not have an ADU. And if you have a temporary mobile home, at the time that you build the ADU, potentially we could ask them to remove the mobile home, so that we never have both of them at the same time. I mean, I don't know where that sits within the legislature, but you know, from a broad standpoint. But I think that would be, there's an option there whereby we don't overpopulate the piece of property, and because I'll go one step further. If each one of those individual units has a car or two cars, we now got potentially 6 cars on one lot, and I got one driveway that maybe holds 2. And that's where we run into this thing where the street gets backed up, and all of a sudden we got other issues that come out of that. In addition to, you know, if I just consider the amount of traffic, the cost, if we had 3 homes in a row that all had an ADU and a temporary mobile home, as unlikely as that is, we're putting a huge impact on the roadway. So it'd be interesting to consider if we could make it one or the other. If you build an ADU, you got to remove the mobile home. If you don't have an ADU, you can bring in the mobile home. Yeah. So I did look into this a little bit, but
John?
No, I mean, Andy's saying you can't do that, but I'm not, the statute really doesn't address those circumstances, unfortunately. I expect, however, HCD's position would be that since they're pro putting as much housing as you possibly can put on the lot, that that having a temporary unit existing, since it's temporary particularly, would not preclude and somebody legitimately having an ADU, and I expect HCD would interpret the statute as saying that you just kind of ignore the existence of a temporary structure, and the ADU is allowed by right.
So then, as a follow-up, and Alma, I don't know that you know this by heart, but what would you expect is the average period of time that a temporary mobile home sits on a site? Because we haven't had one that was 2 months ever.
Correct. I mean,
Better question is whether have you ever seen one removed?
Yeah, right.
Exactly. We had to modify.
Have I seen one removed? And since I've been here, 22 years, I've maybe seen one or two?
Yeah, I mean, it's why we went through and we modified the code so that it required that it be removed.
Yeah.
If the dweller was no longer in that, you know, if it became a different.
or if they moved. That we modified it to if they moved, it had to be taken out unless it was modified.
But I mean, so the point is, we call it temporary because you can take it away, but the reality is they're semi-permanent. I mean, really.
Well, and the issue is slightly different now than it used to be because of the right to have an ADU. And so that it's not quite as onerous if you say, well, okay, you know, you had this for mom and dad and they're no longer using it, that it was temporary and you have to remove it. If you want to have another structure back there, you have the absolute right to build one.
Danny?
Yeah, I totally understand you have to let them have it, but we've spent a lifetime here at Norco, and just tonight, a neighbor's talking about what the barn looks like, windows, things like this, and you can imagine 3 more units you're going to be looking at next door. I know we have rights, but my gosh, what are we going to do? Next thing is going to be a 3-story apartment in the back. It's just getting crazy.
So what do you
I've
think?
lived here all my life and fought it every time since I was a boy here to keep it looking like this. And I know the law, you have to do it until we take over the state and stop it.
So are you thinking,
Thank you.
Are you thinking that you want to go with, or you suggest that if there isn't a ADU, that it's okay to have it? I mean, I do like this last line.
Yeah,
where,
I'm
either
going
one
with
or the
Phil.
other.
I like to, there's just too much on a lot. And I mean, like I say, every time we hear about what a barn looks like, oh my God, it's a foot taller. Can you imagine 3 units on there now you're looking at, and it just goes on and on. And we see it all the time in here about people coming in and complaining what a horse barn looks like or an accessory building. And now we're going to talk about what 3 of them are going to look like on the lot. Oh, yeah, we're just going to be shaking our head because we're tied with the law, and that's what's sad.
So, okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry. It was what was said earlier. Is it true that we can still limit the lot coverage?
Yes, only to the extent that it does not preclude an ADU of, oh my goodness, John, was it 850? 850.
Okay, so, I mean, in the oddest case where you got somebody with a big lot, for them to have an ADU and a temporary mobile home, they could still have animal keeping areas in the back, right? If it was large enough. But we've got some that aren't large enough for all that to happen at the same time, and it would prohibit. So I think the other thing that we could potentially add to this is, to the extent it doesn't violate the coverage law, the lot coverages are the same as we would an accessory building. Because Danny's got a good point. I'm going to have a primary house, I'm going to have an ADU, I'm then going to have a temporary mobile home, and I'm going to have an accessory building, all on the same lot.
And a junior ADU.
I don't think can you have both at the same time? So and then when you do the junior ADU, you build it in the garage, and now you got like 8 cars on the side.
And where's the cars parking? Yeah, it's bad enough.
So I mean, I think to the extent, the other thing, and not to restrict the ADU, right? That's their right.
Yeah.
But we established the lot coverage under a different code. I get it. It's going to prohibit it will prohibit people from building accessory buildings, because you're not going to be able to meet the lot coverage that's required for an accessory building.
You wouldn't have it.
No.
You wouldn't have a horse barn back there. You wouldn't have one. You wouldn't have that accessory that we're looking at tonight.
No, you
Wouldn't have it.
I mean, if you get somebody with an RV storage back there, they're not going to be able to make it.
Yeah.
Right? So we are prohibiting uses when we do this. All said and done. So I think that the real challenge for the city council is going to be how do you make it so that it's not overpopulated? And I don't mean populated. I mean like the ground plane has too much stuff on it, and then the burden on sewers, power, on utilities in general. So. Those are my thoughts. I think I'm done.
Yeah. Did you get some ideas? Almost going, no.
Run for governor, would you?
Yeah. So just for clarification, I guess is the commission in favor of keeping the temporary mobile homes and caretaker dwellings as a discretionary approval? I guess that's the real question.
Yeah, that is the question.
I think it falls. It's no longer a right to have the temporary mobile. If they have a guaranteed right to have an ADU, I don't know that it's an automatic right to have a temporary mobile home.
True.
Okay.
I would take a different approach, and I would regulate them individually and not make one exclusive of the other. I think it is okay. There are circumstances where they're going to all be necessary, and there are circumstances where they can all be accommodated. It's just a matter of properly regulating each one, not saying if you have this, you can't have that.
But if you have, now since we have ADUs and they're allowed, wouldn't we just substitute then, since they end up not being temporary anyways, just substitute the house for the caretaker and/or elderly, which I don't like, senior citizens. Call it an ADU instead of having
I would not make that an absolute. I would allow still for the option, depending on the circumstances, and as long as we have regulatory protections in place to make sure that it's not creating an excessive burden on the property. I just would hate to automatically exclude one for the other.
Okay, what do we feel in general? We have to tell Alma something here.
Were you taking notes, Alma?
I'm taking notes.
So, I think one of the things the city council is going to have to determine is whether or not the use of an ADU precludes the use of a temporary mobile home, or vice versa. Now, since we know the ADU is regulated, it's a right.
Correct.
That would mean the removal of a mobile home, move your family, you move them into the ADU, the mobile home gets removed, and the folks that are in the ADU, if they move on, then you can occupy the ADU however you want to.
Correct. There's no restriction on that.
Right.
I agree with that.
I agree with that also.
I mean, it's worth bouncing around to see what council thinks.
Just one dissenting opinion.
Yes, there you go. Is that enough, Alma? Did you, Alma? Did you want us to open the public? I thought it was just on this level.
It's a discussion item. I guess that's up
Yes.
to John.
No, I mean, it's card submitted. You're obligated to, before you take a vote, to listen to whatever the public has.
Public hearing. Go
We're
ahead.
not taking a vote.
Bill Naylor.
Hey, Bill.
I thought I was going to get shortchanged here. I don't get a chance to talk to you guys very much anymore. I really am very appreciative of some of your commission here discussing some of the issues that are being forced upon the city, and I really concur with the majority of the commission so far that I think we need to have one or the other, and since the state's already mandated that we're going to have can have an ADU and a junior ADU on your property, that means now instead of one house and maybe a grandparent's home or something temporarily, you can have up to 3 units, and I really think that you should only be limiting that. We're going to completely change the nature of Norco as it is with the extra units, and I think we need to be real careful of what we do. The other thing that I want to just point out, because you guys discussed that pretty well, is that the council is now looking at the historical overlay for Norco, especially in a good part of the area, and I do not know how that will affect some of the stuff that you're discussing now. So I think the discussion is appropriate, but be careful about getting the cart before the horse and getting a change here in the ordinance before we find out exactly what's going to happen with that other part with the historical overlay. Thank you.
Thank you.
For what it's worth, the historical overlay should have no effect on this of any kind,
Thank you.
no matter how it comes out.
Anything more?
No, ma'am.
Okay, well, we'll close the public hearing and come back to us, and I think you got your answer already, Alma? Yeah? Okay. We're now going to go to 3A Site Plan 2019-19.
Yes. Madam Chair, members of the Planning Commission, we have a, oh, there we go. Let me find my little pointer here now. Oh, it's on the podium.
Nodded together.
Find my pointer. Madam Chair, members of the Planning Commission, this item that's before you is a modification to an approved site plan that allowed the development of a 374,170 square foot industrial warehouse manufacturing warehouse and distribution complex at 3166 Horseless Carriage Drive. And this was approved back in 2019. And it was a site plan that consisted of 3 buildings. Oh, there's a site right there over on Horseless Carriage. Let's see, where's the pointer? Here. And it consisted of 3 buildings. So this is pretty much the site plan that was the layout that was approved by the Planning Commission. So you have 3 buildings that the total was 374,000. So what's before you this evening is, right now we are in the process of reviewing the precise grade plan. And through that review, in order to be able to accommodate the approved site plan, the modification of the site plan is to allow the Planning Commission to look at, and we are showing the incorporation of the required retaining walls to be able to accommodate the site plan. So, as I indicated, Exhibit B depicts the layout that was approved by the Planning Commission. The Commission is aware that the original approval regrading of the site was necessary to facilitate the new buildings. Basically, the new development intends to balance the earthwork for the proposed project by cutting the west side of the building and filling the east side, and with that, the site towards the front was going to be raised, will be raised approximately, anywhere up to 8 feet along the front. And herein lies the reason why we need some retaining walls. So let's go forward. So the retaining walls that will be part of, to be able to facilitate the approved site plan, we have retaining wall here, here, here. And all of these retaining walls, all the way down to, including the footing, we'll probably be reaching anywhere from up to, I believe it's, I mentioned 15 feet. But, some of that's going to be hidden, and most of the only one that's going to be visible from the street is this wall here. The taller portion will be on the inside, will be facing this, same here. So, exposed to the adjacent neighbors is probably going to be anywhere from maybe 3 to 4 feet, if that. The tallest portion of the buildings would be on the interior, but the one that will be most visible from the street is in fact the one adjacent to the street there. And that one's going to range, it's going to range anywhere from, the wall will vary in height from the maximum exposed wall height and will be approximately 19 feet. So to help hide that wall, the applicant is proposing what is called a mechanically stabilized earth type wall, and the applicant is here to be able to explain a little bit more. But what we did provide is some pictures that kind of show the type of a wall that's proposed along the front. And in addition to that, there is the wall right here. You can't see the measurements, so I won't elaborate on that. The landscaping is proposed to be substantially augmented, and what staff has recommended that in the original approval there was a maximum size of the trees 24-inch box or 15-gallon, 5-gallon shrubs, but with this proposal we are recommending that they be upgraded to 36-inch minimum and 15-gallon shrubs. And what you're seeing before you, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is at about a growth at about 80% growth, which is going to take time, obviously. But if you plant the bigger size planting, it's going to look a lot nicer than the smaller ones. So that's part of the modification of the site plan, is to incorporate to at least show the Planning Commission of the walls that will be added. So again, I'd like to reemphasize that the wall that will be most visible or will be visible from the street is the one at the front, and it's being it will be augmented by a substantial amount of landscaping. Conditional use permit for the first the modification of the conditional use permit. Let me backtrack a little bit here. Sorry. So as far as here we go. When this original project was approved, there was a conditional use permit. In the M1 zone, conditional use permit is, there is provision for a conditional use permit, approval of a conditional use permit by the Planning Commission for buildings up to 50 feet with approval of a conditional use permit. This project was approved I looked at the elevation. I know I said 42 feet, but looking at the elevations to finished floor, it was approximately 40 feet overall. So what you were looking at here, and the most one that's going to be visible is the one that's adjacent on the corner of the street, closest to the street, on the southeast corner. What we have is the requested for the revised building heights is due to the unforeseen grading issues unknown at the time the original approval was approved. The increase in height allows the extending building footings to be utilized in place of additional retaining walls throughout the property. So what I just want to point out as an example, is this building one? Yes. So you have the finished floor here, but because of the grade, you're going to have an extended footing right in there, and it's going to be textured so that it looks like the building, but it's actually part of the retaining wall. So it's going to make the building appear taller than what it really is to the finished floor. However, this elevation here is what you'll be looking at at the corner here. That's closest to the street. That's going to be pretty evident. So what you're looking at here is, again, our landscaping that's proposed to augment that area to help reduce soften the view of this tall building from that corner. And this is just kind of like transparent tree to show you how that building is going to look. So I've kind of summarized as best I could. There's probably a little more information in your staff report, but in the summary, that's what we're looking at. The site plan modification is to show the Planning Commission the provision of the walls to facilitate the approved site plan. And the modification to the conditional use permit is for a maximum height of 50 feet, and that's including the footing, the extended footing. And that's not really part of the building per se, but it appears to be part of the building because of the dip in footing. And I know it's probably a little hard to see on your elevation drawings. Like for example, on building 1, you're looking at which is page 2 as your handout. On the west elevation, it's about 39 feet at the west elevation corner, and 38 feet at the opposite end. And then if you look at the south elevation, which is, backtrack. Right in here, that's where you see 49 feet. And at this corner, this is where the tall is. It's about 50 feet. 50 feet, 2 inches. But, I mean, I can go over the rest of the building elevations, but this is where you get the highest, right in here. And that's right at the corner of this building right here. So with that, I will conclude. There are resolutions for approval of these modifications. The applicant is in the audience and can answer any questions, having to do with grading or anything of that nature. And with that, I will conclude and answer any questions.
Thank you.
And before I finish, I need to make a correction to the resolutions. And I apologize. Resolution was incorrectly titled. Resolution 2020-23. It should read 2021-23. And then the other one should, instead of reading 2020-24, it should read 2021-24. So my mistake, and I apologize. So
Thank you, Alma.
with that, I will conclude.
Mark, you have questions of staff? Bill?
Just so I'm clear, what it sounds like is the interior space is the same height.
Pretty much, yeah.
That hasn't changed. It's the footing that
Correct.
makes it appear from the street to be
Correct.
taller.
Yeah.
And then the second one was, you're saying the resolution that we are going to make a motion on is 21-24? 2021-23.
For the site plan modification, and then 2021-24 for the CUP modification.
Okay, which is, and then the site plan 2019-19 is modification number 1.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Now that's it.
Danny, questions of staff?
No, no questions. I like that style instead of walls or retaining walls. I think it's more decorative on the building blocks that they build like that. They do that all over the place. It looks a lot better, but it looks good. I like it, and I think the height, and it's in the right place. The building's in the right area. Looks great.
Thank you. Okay, I have no questions to staff. Will the applicant like to come up? I'll open the public hearing.
Hi, good evening. Just to introduce myself, my name is Rosendo Solis, and I'm the development manager with Caprock Partners, the owner of this property. And just want to thank the commissioners for taking the time tonight, and thank you to Alma for raising this issue and this concern. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
It's not clear, I mean, I'm looking at the site plan, but it doesn't change the square footage of any of the buildings.
Correct.
No, sir, it doesn't.
Okay,
That's
that's
correct.
Mark, any questions? Danny,
No.
any questions?
No.
Thank you very much. I have
Thank
no
you.
questions either. Thank you. Close the public hearing and bring it back to us. Discussion and/or
I'll just make a motion that we approve Resolution 2021-23 and 2021-24, approving Site Plan 2019-19, Modification Number 1, and Conditional Use Permit 2020-03, Modification Number 1, respectively.
Second.
I have a motion from Member Jafarian and a second from Vice Chair Azevedo. Chair Hedges?
yes.
Vice Chair Azevedo?
Yes.
Member Askey?
Yes.
Member Delap? My apologies, Member Jafarian.
Yes.
Motion passed.
You had a new name there for a minute. Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to go to 3B, variance 2021-01. Is that yours, Alma?
That's me.
All right.
Madam Chair, members of the Planning Commission, this is agenda item 3B, which is a variance, is a request for a variance from the minimum setback requirements of the A1 zone to allow the construction of a new home with minimum side yard setbacks of 10 and 8, required to be 5 and 15, and with a rear yard setback of 37 feet, required to be 100 feet, on a vacant parcel located at the southwest corner of Corona Avenue and Manowar Drive, located within the A1 zone. And a variance is included with the request for this variance is also a request to allow a 6-foot-high tall perimeter fence above the maximum allowed 3-foot height for solid fencing within the front area, and an 8-foot-high fence along the south property line. So the property in question is a property that's approximately 10,500 square feet. It has a frontage on Corona Avenue of 70 feet, which is technically the front yard for the property, and a maximum depth of 150 feet, which extends along the private road known as Manowar Drive. And Manowar Drive is a private road, and it's actually part of the property to the west of this particular property. It's part of that property, and it consists of approximately 50 feet wide. Well, a portion of it is part of the adjacent property, but anyways, Manowar Drive is approximately 50 feet wide and consists of 20 feet of pavement, and then landscaping about 15 feet on both sides. The lot's non-conforming in that it doesn't meet the minimum requirements of the A1 zone, being that the lot size is approximately half of what's required to be in the A1 zone, and the minimum lot width of 80 feet, it falls short of that, and does not, it falls short also as far as the lot depth of 200 feet, respectively. The applicant is proposing to construct a 3,017 square foot home, which includes, it's a footprint, which includes a home, the attached garage, and a rear patio. And the home is proposed a front yard setback of 25 feet, which meets the minimum from Corona, which will technically act like the side yard. And the house is proposed to face Manowar. So from Corona, it'll be 25 feet, which meets the front yard setback, and it's proposed with 8 and 10 feet and the minimum setbacks are 5 and 15, and the rear yard setback is 37 feet. Let's see, at the front yard setback, it meets, as I indicated, and however, the required 15-foot side yard on at least one side of the house will not be met, and herein lies a request for the variance, and of course, we won't be able to meet the rear yard setback being proposed at 37 feet, which is required to be 100 feet in the rear yard. Perimeter fencing along the entire length of the south property line is proposed to consist of a 6 to 8 foot tall CMU wall, and fencing along the entire length of the east property line along Corona Avenue is proposed to consist of a 6 foot tall fence, solid fence. Along the south, is proposed to consist of a 6 foot tall solid fence. Solid fencing along the south and east property line is being proposed since the new home is proposed to face and be accessed from Manowar Drive. Access from Manowar. The existing private drive is more conducive to traffic safety as opposed to adding another driveway on Corona Avenue. So it makes more sense to access the property from Manowar. Let's see. Per the requirements of the municipal code, within the first 25-foot setback area, solid fencing can't exceed 3 feet. But as I indicated, that within the front setback area, there's a 6 foot tall wall fence that's being proposed in that area. It's not supposed to exceed 3 feet. The uniqueness about this property is, again, that's going to act like the side yard, and it's going to face Manowar. And what's being requested also is at 6 feet along the south property line that will go up to 8 feet, again, because the house is going to be facing Manowar. As far as in granting a variance, there's certain findings that have to be made that have been laid out in your staff report. The biggest one is finding number 1, that there are special characteristics attached to the subject property which do not generally apply to other properties in the area. This property is non-conforming in that it does not meet the minimum lot size. Again, it's almost half of the size that's what's required to be in the A1 zone. I mean, half the size, and properties with the minimum lot size of, let's say, half an acre, it's a lot easier to meet the 100-foot rear yard setback as opposed to a lot that's 10,000 square feet. So that's a unique characteristic, and one of the most unique one is that it's the only vacant lot in the area. So all these other properties have probably been developed with they've been there for a while, and they probably were developed with this when the rear yard setback was probably 30 feet, because it was 30 feet at one time, 30 feet to 60, and now it's 100. So herein lies the situation where we have a vacant lot with new development standards. I mean, it's kind of a difficult situation. So it's unique in that sense that it's smaller than what's allowed in the A1 zone. It doesn't meet the front yard, the lot width, the minimum lot width, or the minimum lot depth. As far as the fencing is concerned, again, I mentioned as far as the property is going to be accessed from Manowar. From a safety perspective, it just makes sense for it to be accessed from Manowar as opposed to cutting another driveway approach on Corona Avenue. It just seems like it might be a little too close. But the fencing height, as proposed, is at the discretion of the Planning Commission. In fact, the entire variance application is at the discretion of the Planning Commission. Finding number 2, granting of the variance is necessary to avoid practical difficulty, undue hardship, or results inconsistent with the general purpose of the zoning code. Without the variance, it will be difficult to construct a single-family home of average size. And that's one of the things that the commission will need to consider. The finding for granting of the walls at the height proposed is also at the discretion of the Planning Commission. Granting number 3, granting of the variance will not result in material damage or prejudice to other properties in the vicinity, nor be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare. This finding, basically, the intent of this zone, the A1 zone, is to allow residential with animal keeping. The variance being proposed and being requested does not interfere with that intent of the zone. let's see, the granting of the variance will not be detrimental to or contrary to the general plan, again, because it is a use, the use of the property and the way it was intended per the general plan is not being affected, being that it's a residential house with the allowances for animal keeping. Based on the size of the property, only one horse is allowed, and they've made provision for it, even the access for it as well, as noted on your site plan. And an additional finding that has been required to be made by the Planning Commission is that it will not limit animal keeping, and as shown on your site plan, a designated area for at least one animal unit is still being provided for. With that, I will conclude. The applicant is in the audience. The resolution for, there is a resolution that has been drafted for approval should the commission determine in their discretion that the variance being requested is justified. And with that, I will conclude and answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Alma. Mark, questions of staff?
Yeah, Alma, did I understand correctly with what you were saying that while it would require variances from the current codes, that is it consistent, though, the request consistent with the existing housing that's in that area? Or is it even more of a variance than what the existing housing would show? Does that make sense?
In the sense of what?
Are we going to give them something more than the other homeowners in the area would have gotten in a similar situation? You know, with setbacks. I mean, are the setbacks consistent with the other houses?
Well, it would be difficult because consistent in the sense that, well, you know, the existing homes surrounding have been developed. They've been developed for quite some time. Right. Probably when, I mean, the rear yard setback was, if anything, 30 feet. I think it would be difficult to determine that the consistency, because one of the findings is that there's something unique attached to this property, and the uniqueness comes from the fact that it's small. It's small, correct. So, does that answer your question?
Well, I guess what I'm trying to get at is if we've got a bunch of people that have 40-foot setbacks in the neighborhood, and now we're going to allow a new house to come in and be with a 30-foot setback that the other property owners weren't able to get, that would, to my mind, be an inconsistency. I don't know that it's a significant inconsistency, but it would be, in my mind, one. It's one thing to give a variance on a setback,
sure.
But it's another thing to create an entirely unique property in a community.
Okay.
But if we don't know, we don't know. I mean, if that hasn't been looked at, that's fine.
Yeah. And if you look at the compatibility of the surrounding properties, most of them are bigger. So therein lies the I guess the consistency. You can't really say that it would, because the lot is smaller, and you know, these surrounding properties were developed when there were smaller setbacks, and I think John has a chime in.
Oh, I mean, to at least to some extent, consistency. I mean, I know you're asking questions just for information, but consistency isn't the significant determination for granting or not granting a variance. It's whether or not the circumstances on that lot are different enough that it created issues which didn't exist in the other properties. I mean, obviously, if the other properties were larger, then it would be pretty much irrelevant anyway. But it's the uniqueness of the property, which is the basis for the variance, not.
Yeah, no, I get they're trying to make the maximum possible usage out of a small piece of property. I mean, that's basically what it comes down to. So, okay, no other staff questions.
Phil, any questions of staff? Danny?
No, I think every time you have to look at a lot and see what's buildable and not. And we have a lot of them in Norco, and you can see down that road. I know you can see a lot of the lots are the same size and they got houses on them back then. So there's going to be, if you don't let them do it, you're going to have a lot just sitting there forever, not being utilized. And I don't think that's good to have it sitting like that. I don't see why they can't make it fit, get the variance to fit the lot. And because we do have a lot of lots like that throughout this town that are divided up at that long time ago. And I don't see why we have to stop at this time. And that's what the variants are. The word is that's what we're giving them because it is irregular. The lot's irregular and it doesn't fit. But I don't see why not.
I don't have any questions of staff, so we'll open the public hearing. Would the applicant like to come up, please?
Good evening, commissioners. How are you? To make a note to your question, I'd like to reference to page 101 in the agenda packet, Exhibit C, where you can see that the neighboring property directly to the south is also a non-conforming lot size. And it's also positioned in a way that does not promote any animal keeping, as it has a detached structure in the back that actually has been converted. So,
what I was looking at.
yeah, so I would say that the way that we have aligned this obviously supports our general plan and fully promotes animal keeping on the lot. But other than that, I don't have any comments to add to staff's presentation. I really do thank Alma for her time with this. But I would like to note that I am a lifelong Norco resident, and I am excited for the opportunity to build the next phase of my life in the community. And I thank you for focusing on the success of this project.
Thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
questions for her? No? Okay.
Thank you.
Any other
No, ma'am.
parts? All right, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to us. Discussion and/or anybody wants to make a
I'll make a motion a motion for the approval of variance 2021-01.
I'll second it.
I have a motion from Member Jafarian and a second from Vice Chair Azevedo. Chair Hedges,
yes?
Vice Chair Azevedo,
Yes.
Commission Members Askey
Yes.
and Jafarian.
Yes.
Motion passed.
We are now at 3C. Is that yours?
It's me. It's my turn.
Right.
Alma gets a break. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Chair. This is an application for a conditional use permit 2021-02. It's a request for approval to allow the sale of liquor or distilled spirits for an off-site consumption for a mobile station at an existing gas station located at 2740 Hamner within the CG zone. Staff is recommending to adopt the resolution as proposed. The request is for a conditional use permit, as I said, for the on-site sale, off-site distribution of distilled spirits for
Slow down.
the other night. I'll slow down. The request, conditional use permit, is for the sale of distilled spirits for off-site consumption in conjunction with the existing gas station convenience store that has an existing beer and wine license for off-sale consumption. It's a mobile gas station located just outside City Hall here, where the Stater Brothers is at, just to the right here on Hamner, so it's just off of here. It is an existing gas station. It's been there for quite a few years. The applicant has come in for the specific request for distilled spirits. ABC requires that we go through the Planning Commission for a CUP. He is proposing a small interior remodel. As part of it, it's going to be an expansion of about 400 square feet to the existing square footage. So he's going to remodel the whole interior in order to have the distilled spirits behind the counter, and then he's going to redo the whole thing. The applicant is here. There's not much more to it. It's just an internal improvement with alcohol sales, and if you guys approve it, we can go forward. That's it.
Okay, questions of staff, Phil?
Did you take a look at how close the two nearest liquor stores are?
Yeah, Mike?
If it's going over the amount that the census tracts allowed, it has to go before the Planning Commission for consideration. There is an existing liquor store adjacent right there in the shopping center to the south. There is one across the street, and there's also Stater Brothers. So there is within the census tract quite a few options. But still a request by the applicant to consider his as a future site.
So ABC isn't saying no.
ABC's okay with it.
Sorry. Mark, any questions? Dan? No. Okay, we'll open the public hearing. Would the applicant like to come forward, please?
I'm the owner of the mobile station. I'm trying to remodel, so I order a new dispenser, a new canopy. I'm gonna remodel the store, and I'm trying to put as much as profit center I can get to reduce the gasoline prices. And that's why I applied for the liquor license.
Okay, can I ask you, are you connected with Circle K?
Yes.
Okay, because that's what the plan said, and I was
Yes.
kind of confused. So it's not a Circle K, but,
It will be a Circle K.
oh, it will change to a Circle
No, it's
K?
gonna be a mobile gas with Circle K store.
Oh, okay, Circle K store. Okay, sorry. Any
But,
other questions of the staff?
No.
But the gasoline will be as
Stay mobile.
as mobile. Yeah.
But the store will be a Circle
Yeah,
K.
the store will be Circle K.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Do we have any cards?
No, ma'am.
Right, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to us. Motion and/or discussion?
Just a brief discussion, and then I'm going to make a motion. The 3 liquor stores that you could walk to from here, and 2 of them are quite large. Stater Brothers has a pretty good-sized one as well, but there are particularly liquor stores. So unless there's other discussion, I'm going to make a motion that we deny Resolution 2021-22 for the conditional use permit 2021-02.
Can we discuss the motion now? Or do we have to rule?
We have to wait, and see if there's a second.
Not without a second? Okay.
Yeah, you know.
Dies from a lack of second. Okay, now we can discuss and/or have another motion.
Yeah, I just don't, I mean, yes, there's plenty of liquor options, but at the same time, free enterprise is free enterprise, you know? You don't, there's going to be a certain amount of alcohol consumed in this town, and whether you buy it from here or buy it from here or buy it from here, I don't think it's going to increase the consumption. I think it's just going to distribute the sales. So I'm not opposed to it at all. In fact, I'll make a motion that we pass conditional use permit 2021-02 as written.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Under discussion, I too was a little bit worried, Phil, but if ABC isn't worried, then I'm not going to be worried about it either, so.
I have a motion from Member Askey and a second from Vice Chair Azevedo. Chair Hedges?
Yes.
Vice Chair Azevedo?
Yes.
Commission members Askey?
Yes.
Jafarian?
No.
Motion passed.
Okay, well, we are at commission and staff communications. I don't know if there is any. Anyone have anything they want to put on the agenda?
Can we get smaller prints that we don't have to, like, I mean, like, this actually isn't too bad of a size.
Absolutely,
This one is way.
Absolutely.
Job site.
You know, the flag in front of the building is not this big. I mean, seriously. So yeah, if we could get a nominal size. I mean, the 8.5 by 11s that were in here were clearly too small to read.
Yeah.
11 by 17s are generally
Yes.
okay. This kind of half size sheet is legible. I can read everything on it. But when they're this big, it's clumsy to sit here. I had to go into my living room to unfold it to review it.
Okay, well.
Thank you, Phil.
Nothing else. Well, we are adjourned.